And we are live. All right, all of you freedom-loving boys and girls, wherever you are, this is Millstone Self-Reliance Group. We are your hosts. I'm an incredibly attractive bald guy named Mark. And then over here, this other guy who's got an even better beard than I.
Portly, hairy fella named Blake.
Oh. Hey, you know what? And to anyone who watches tonight, Here you go. Cheers to you guys. Take a quick sip. All right, here's the deal, boys and girls. So, we were teaching some classes. That was the whole point of Millstone, just to kind of not waste a little bit of time, but just to kind of reiterate and give you guys a sense of where we're going with this. And then we had a month before the election, and Blake and I were just like, yeah, hey, man, we might as well just focus on, current events for the next month because shit's going to get crazy, and hence the name Hands Inside the Ride. Because no matter who you're voting for, shit's about to get crazy. So we're just going to have fun here tonight. We got a guest coming on in a little bit. He's been here before. We'll see what kind of crazy things he wants to talk about. I've got a couple little clips I want to show. But Blake, really, again, and anyone watching, our focus here is on freedom and self-reliance. And we have the national election coming up next week. And the shenanigans and there's just so much wrong with everything that's taking place. I personally don't care your politics. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I do care if you believe in freedom. I do care if you've got common sense. And, I'm just going to turn it over to Blake, with one simple question, let Blake go where he wants to track with this as we start this off. But look, you can vote your way into communism. There's only one way out of it. And that's kind of my thing right there is we're in big trouble. Look, if you know me personally, or if you're a customer over on Centerline and you've called me up and at the end of the day and got me going, I'll say the same thing. And I've said it over here before too. And even on Centerline, even if Donald Trump wins, we have at least 6 years of austere hardships in front of us to keep this boat from capsizing. But if Donald Trump loses, look, you vote for who you want to vote for. If you can come on here and make a cogent argument why we should vote for Kamala Harris, and if your argument is cogent and it's not just orange man bad, I'm willing to listen to it. I've not heard a single person in the whole United States or the whole world make a solid cogent argument for why you would vote for Kamala Harris. It's always emotional. Trump's bad. He's Hitler. She's a woman, blah, 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 blah. And if she's a woman, we trust all women, then why don't we trust and believe the woman who's making the accusations against her husband right now? But Blake. If only Trump had a beard like us. Seriously.
It would be huge. Let me tell you, it'd be the greatest beard ever. Nobody would have a beard like Trump.
My beard would be, I can't do Trump, but he would.
That was Arnold Schwarzenegger more than anything.
A little bit. Trump would be like, he would claim me like the Lord of the Rings, that he's got birds and shit living in his beard or some shit.
Like Radagast. Well, we always joked around about, and I think he missed a huge opportunity, and his vanity would get in the way for this, unfortunately, but Trump should have shaved that head of hair, grown a beard after he had the assassination attempt, rocked the scar, not tried to get it repaired. Don't use a touch of gray. Let that thing grow gray and come out looking like a Civil War general, and it would have been a big change. So that's neither here or there. So
well, and I just don't see Trump shaving his head bald.
No,
But hey, here I'm gonna just kind of kick it back over to Blake with one comment. So give me a quick second here. A little bit of a running nose at the end of the day, but it's this guy. He runs a podcast called 3 of 7, and he pops up in my feed every now and then. I think he's a former teen guy, Southern guy. Seems like he's got his head on really straight. I don't care so much about whether you're a team guy or whatever. Great, we all put our pants on, but he seems like he's got his shit together. That's the more important thing for me. And he raised a point blank. He raised a point, comma, Blake, that I know this is going to sound a little bit like self-praise, but something that we've been saying for a long time, especially when you go back to the first 72 hours. He was talking about how if shit breaks bad, You need to have your commo plans in place right now, because if shit breaks bad, this is gone.
Yeah.
You're not going to be like your phone. Look, you already can't trust this device anyway. But his point was just like, kind of going to what Blake and I've said on different episodes. You might want to be starting to think about your honestly, your communications plans, your personal communications, impersonal communications. And, he actually kind of focused on, you might have to start doing a lot of more face-to-face type of meetings, so I'm kind of going back to my CIA time. And there's a lot to be said with face-to-face meetings if they can be secured. But even in a face-to-face meeting, if somebody's running, ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance against you, even that face-to-face meeting can be compromised. And then depending on the location and, the surroundings and the materials, there's still ways and able to collect sound. So Blake, on that note, what are your kind of thoughts? If this does break bad, how are people, like, what do you think? Do you think there's a timeline on how long we have until the censorship truly kicks in? Because I'll just say this, and I'm setting you up, or I'm giving you my bias. You've got 180 days. The censorship will have solidified and it will be fucking real. You'll have 180 days.
Well, I think it depends on which way the winds blow. I do think it will go quick.
I'm saying if it breaks
truly bad. Yeah, if it breaks truly bad, I would say that might be a safe assessment, because the thing is the apparatus already exists. The infrastructure's there, the means to be able to control the language is there. It just isn't on full activation right now, let us say. So, that's definitely a very real possibility. And I think it's one of the most important things to do, is to control free communication, to control that ability to talk to people from, another state or even potentially around the globe. I would say
just to that point, California wanted to basically ban satire. They wanted to ban jokes. They wanted to ban memes, so.
Well,
and again, because of that, the evidence is out there. And if you think about this, we're using this platform right now, we're using technology, but think about what Google and ScrewTube, think about in Instagram, or, and Meta, think about who they really are. And if you really think it's just Jeff Bezos, or if you really think it's just Mark Zuckerberg, I mean, come on, man. I mean, like, we see how much the government already has had its hands in there. What is that going to look like if this breaks bad in 8 days?
Yeah, well, I would say that my response to the whole communication side of things, we're talking about the controlling of communication and whatnot, is see me for a beer at the Green Dragon. I mean, that's how communication is going to have to be done. It's in person, it's face to face, it's with those that and you're going to have vetting processes for that communication, because you can't. We can nary do that right now. Trust somebody that you just meet off the street and have a conversation over a pint, but when that stage happens, because it will be an escalation into the next realm of things, you will really have to vet who you're talking to, and can maybe come up with some shorthand with the people that you can trust on how to talk and communicate with each other to convey an idea that you can't maybe openly announce inside of the situation you're in. So not scripted. I didn't think about this until you just said that right there. So if you're new to this channel, or, if you're just finding us, in the scrap bin of history, and I could sit and talk about censorship and all that all day long too, but go back and watch that series we did on the first 72 hours, because comma was a big part of it. And we go into a little bit greater detail. But Blake, I think, so Blake and I guess we'll just kind of jump into a little bit of announcement. Life is tough for everybody. I get it. This isn't, again, a woe is me story. I mean, we're all fucking busy, each and every one of us. And if you're not busy, God bless you. I hope you're not busy, but hopefully you're staying active and you're busy in different ways. But with the direction we're going, Blake and I have been talking about this. And so the 12th of November, that's a Monday, that's going to be our last Millstone podcast on the weekly basis. And then we're going to go do a 30-day, every 30 days, and we'll do announcements. Just because, look, I've got to focus on Centerline. Blake's got to focus on his business and his new family. Again, everybody's just business. And, no offense to all the great men and women who do watch this, but we don't make any money off of this. And at the end of the day, it's all about putting,
keeping the lights on and putting milk and eggs in your refrigerator. So, but Blake, I think if this does break bad, that first episode that we do, we should teach a class while there's still time. But in more detail than we did in the first 72 hours, and talk about clandestine communications and talk about combo plans. I think
I think that's a really solid thing to talk about. I think it's one of the underexplored areas of people when they're going through and they're kind of starting to learn these things and figure out stuff. And there's a lot of old, what would be considered antiquated means of communication that can be revitalized and brought back into this modern day and age that allow you to talk without talking. And, I think that's be a really, really a good thing to bring up. And that's one of the reasons we're looking at going to that monthly schedule right now, is because we can do a little more time to make sure we're bringing topics that are well fleshed out for that podcast. And like everybody that's listening, I'm sure world's kind of weird right now, and we all need time to make sure what we're doing to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
So,
and on that point, I mean, that's what we're going to do. So, it's a once every 30-day podcast. And, I think at that point, we'll get back into the teaching of things and sharing information, and whether that's communications, and just stay tuned. I'm going to start doing some of this over on Centerline too, because I don't want to drop the ball here. I don't want this to go away. But whether it's surveillance detection, handgun, and so matter of fact, a plug for Centerline. Excuse me, I haven't had a beer in a long time, Blake, and I'm here to tell you, I normally don't drink beer. This is a great beer. You can only get it in Wisconsin. It's called Spotted Cow. It's New Glarus. And I had to go over the bridge today. But man, I apologize. It's like, if you don't drink beer very often, it is a little gaseous. You're like, oh, geez. But back to the point. Those podcasts will be very, much more focused on one or two issues, and then getting into a little bit more detail, and to include food prep. I subconsciously, unconsciously, however you want to say it. So I spend my mornings, I usually am up by 6 o'clock for my business, but, making a cup of coffee, cleaning dishes, doing all that kind of household stuff. And then I usually sit and enjoy my first cup of coffee and look at news and read news. That's kind of what I do. And, then I'll go over to ScrewTube and see if any of the people I follow, because some people are only on ScrewTube, if they've posted, and these are people who are posting more informative type of videos. But inevitably, I've been finding all these food videos, making homemade bread, in the frying pan, making, and I just find myself coming into more of the homemade things. And so just on that note, before we jump subjects, Blake has chickens. He's given me a bunch of eggs. I water glass them. So here's something I've never seen when it comes to water glassing eggs, but I'll just share right now. But this is kind of the content that we will be bringing in. If things break bad, this will be some of the content. They last for a very long time, but I'm just saying, buyer beware, because the individual, now I can only speak for me. I don't know if it'll affect you the same way, but I just opened up one of my water glass of eggs that's 6 months old, just to save money without buying eggs at the grocery store. Bread's back up to almost $5 a loaf again where I live. But I think if you let them sit for too long, Blake, for me, they make you just unbelievable. Not gaseous like you're farting and burping, but you have a gas buildup that's painful. That's
interesting.
But those are the long ones. That's when I'm letting them go for almost 6 months.
And I know water glass eggs, I've read that they're pretty well good up to a year. But, obviously we want to turn over our supplies wherever we can. Let me put it this way, as far as the future content goes. I love cooking. I love food preparation. It's something that I'm passionate about. I enjoy. So I really, really hope that we're going to be going over ways to, prep, store, and process some wheat, and not how to make some delicious roasted rad roach. That's really my desire, is to not have to be teaching rad roach recipes. So
hey, good follow-up reference right there, though. If you watch this over on Centerline, or if you're over here in Millstone, unfortunately we're geeks, and there is a lot of pop culture references in a lot of the conversations we have. And and that was one right there. And well, anyway, moving on. Hey, I want to share a video with everybody before we get David. DB's going to be on here in about a couple minutes. So let me just share this, I think is funny as hell video. It's funny, but it's funny because it's so, okay, let me just share the video first, and then let me just do this. Okay, everybody, hang on a sec. This is going to take me just a few clicks. Let me come back over to us. Okay, I'm going to put this on full screen layout. And here we go. Enjoy this video. It's 2 minutes. Everybody just enjoy this.
Joe, Donald Trump is literally Adolf Hitler.
You really think that? I don't know. I had him on, and it didn't feel like I was talking to Hitler.
Joe, what more evidence do you need? He's having a rally at Madison Square Garden that is just like the Nazi rally that happened there in 1939.
How is it like a Nazi rally?
Donald Trump is going to be speaking in front of 20,000 people, Joe.
And what makes them Nazis?
Because they're going to see a Nazi speak.
So you think that because he's a Nazi, if people go see him, that's a Nazi rally?
I can't believe I'm sitting in the same chair Hitler sat in.
You're really going hard on this Hitler thing, huh?
Joe, he said there were very fine people on both sides at Charlottesville.
Yeah, but he specifically said that didn't apply to the Nazis.
I like my version better.
His grandkids are Orthodox Jews.
And once he's in power, he's going to round them up.
He's going to round up his own grandkids and do what? Take them to Disney?
Probably some kind of work camp, maybe worse. Did I mention no tax on tips?
Yeah, you stole that from Trump.
Joe, he's a fascist. He's basically like one of those Russian nesting dolls where he's the big one. And then inside him is Mussolini. And inside that one is Hitler. And inside that one is Pol Pot. And inside that one is Putin. And inside that one is Kim Jong-il.
So is that your platform now? Basically just he's Hitler until election day?
That and joy.
Hitler and joy?
And no income tax. I just made that up right here.
Do you have any original ideas?
I thought the nesting doll thing was pretty good.
If you like that, make sure.
All right, give me a sec, everybody. Let me come back over here. All right, that is obviously a spoof. It's a parody. It's making its way on Twitter right now. It is fucking, in my opinion, for what it's worth, it's hilarious.
So
it's hilarious
about that.
And but it also highlights, and here I might as well just go right. DB, give me 1 second. You caught us right as we're doing a transition, but I'll come to you in a second. DB, just give me a thumbs up. You got me, DB? David, you got me down there? David. Well, okay, David may have us on mute, but here, let me just, we're about to bring on David, but this last little thing here. So there, I mean, just on that note, why that's kind of fitting and why that's interesting is, look, there's already so many reports of how ScrewTube, and it's not just Joe Rogan's talked about it. You know, this is a thing from InfoWars, but anybody who's out there, I mean, and so many people have proven this, that, and I'm sure ScrewTube will just say it was a glitch and they didn't mean for it to happen. But you can't go see that full interview. You can only see like somebody referencing it or a smaller video, a shorter clip. But the 3-hour long format video is no longer up there. You can't find it in the search results. I mean, so if that doesn't tell you about shenanigans, I don't know what to say to you anymore at this point in time. You know, I mean, that's just crazy.
I quite liked the Russian nesting doll comment in that. It was hilarious. I loved that bit.
And
but
she got pulled off. I mean, seriously, what a great pull from history. What a great pull. She threw Pol Pot in there.
But what I will throw in there that I like that they touched on is, do you have any original ideas? Oh, I have no more income tax. I like that they put that in there because that's one of the things I want to touch on. We can talk about it more after DB gets on if you want to, but that was the one thing, because I listened to that whole 3-hour interview and I wasn't super excited about voting for Trump. It was a necessity because it was the best of a bad decision. It was the closest thing that we can get to righting the ship again. It's the best presidency in my lifetime was him in 2016. But after hearing his proposition on Joe Rogan about using tariffs to basically eliminate the federal income tax is, to me, one of the most exciting things that I have heard in my lifetime when it comes to politics. Very hopeful. Do I think it actually happens? No, but I am excited about the concept.
Save that. Let's get
Yeah.
DB on. That's a great.
For sure.
DB, can you hear us down there? I'm about to bring you on. Give me a thumbs up. Okay, gotcha. Let's bring DB on. All right, everybody. The man, the myth, the legend. He's been on before. You know him as DB. I know him as that badass dude that made sure my butt wasn't in trouble in some great locations. Some matter of fact, honestly, what I really know him as, I know him as the capitalist caliphate. That's what I know him as. And by the way, now that I've figured out how to do the hoodies over on Centerline, you and I need to talk, my good man. We've got to do that. That has to happen as a Centerline hoodie. So
heck yeah. Okay, so can you hear me though?
Oh yeah, you're good. Yeah, we got you. Sorry.
All right, I'm in the car. It's on. I'm charging my phone because this thing sucks the battery out of it. And I'm like, oh, I'm not even on the headsets. I'm not on the car. I'm not on my headsets. I guess I'm straight up on the phone. So here we go.
Well, you're doing good. It sounds good on our side. I mean, Blake, sounds good to me. What about you?
Sounds fine to me, man. And I hope that system works because it's the same thing I'm doing tonight as well. So
everybody's having technical difficulties. Knock on wood. I shouldn't even have said that. Hey, DB, I think you heard what we were talking about. Blake just kind of started talking about Donald Trump and the whole comment about tariffs as opposed to income tax. I think I know a little bit about you, and I know that's probably of interest to you. You want to jump in on that? I mean, should we just start the whole conversation off with, is this a good thing, a bad thing? And, I can tell you why it's never going to happen. I'll give you my opinion, but I'll save it for the end. You want to jump in on that?
Which part on the income tax specifically?
He's floating
that
the
it's
idea.
Unconstitutional.
Oh, the using tariffs to pay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good luck. I mean, we could sit here and talk about all kinds of fantasy and stuff, but that one seems pretty extreme. Our entire system's built on this now that it's the classic, once you start a tax, you don't get rid of a tax. So,
well, you give the government you're right, but I'm going to add a little to it. Sorry to interrupt. It's once you give up a little bit of freedom, and it's the same with the Patriot Act. There's so many examples in history. And matter of fact, for anybody out there who's from the great city of Chicago, Illinois, we're just gonna do toll roads and just to pay for this construction. 20, 30 years later, the toll roads never go away because the city makes too much money off it. So that's my only thing there, David. I think that's just a government effing thing. They never give up
just
any
in general
power once they get it. Yeah.
Like, I'd love to discuss the theory and the idea. Like, I'm not an economist, but I get it. I think it would be fantastic if we got rid of the income tax and went to I'd even go with the sales tax, a consumption tax, something where it puts the power in the people's hands,
which is what it used to be.
Yeah, and the tariffs thing, I mean, sure, but what happens when manufacturing and everything comes back to the United States somehow? That's income lost.
No, that's awesome. That's the whole point.
But if
hey, hang on, just for the record, and I've got a bias, I'll say it right now. I manufacture goods. I'm competing with the Chinese market and all those American companies. Even though I'm a little nobody company, that's what I'm competing with. That's the mindset in our society. Oh, that should only cost 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks. No, bring that shit back. Bring that shit back and have better products, better quality control, American, wages for American, workers. No, it needs to come back.
I'm more referencing what happens when tariffs are our main source of tax revenue for our U.S. government. The more stuff that comes back is the less revenue that they would have under that theoretical system. That's all my point.
And that's a great point. But just mathematically, I'm no economist, but I stayed in whatever
Holiday
that hotel is. I stayed in a hotel last night.
Holiday Inn.
Hey, but at the end of the day, though, there's going to be like that tariff. If it's too high, well, then it's a self-defeating purpose. But if you do it just like a tax, there's companies that have too much invested in foreign infrastructure.
Yeah.
And they'd rather see their profits go from a 600% profit margin down to a 400% profit margin, maintain that infrastructure. I mean, just think about this. I mean, so you bring that industry back to America. Now you've got to pay American healthcare, American wages. There's still, David, to your point, there's going to be a bunch of companies that are just going to say, fuck it, I'm going to stay overseas. I still make, okay, I'm not making 600% margins, but I'm making 400% margins now. So I think you're still going to have a lot of people stay overseas.
Well,
No,
another
like,
thing.
oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. One of the things I was going to say is why there's potentially a little bit of legs to this. I don't think it's a viable idea, not by itself, but America is the number one consumer of consumable products in the world. I mean, we are the consumerists. We are the ones that are going to buy the junk, the trinkets, all that kind of thing. And like to your point, Mark, is those companies overseas are going to still want to be able to sell to us. So tariffs or not, the product will still come in. The question is it a viable amount of money to actually run the bloat on the government? The answer to that is overwhelmingly no. So then it forces the government to tighten itself up a little bit. I mean, yeah, it's wishful thinking. It's not viable.
David, and I was looking at you, but I thought David out of the corner of my, no, we both did that. Nope, you're hitting the nail on the head. It would force our government to be more efficient. I mean, David, I don't want to speak for you, but is that why you smiled and got happy too?
Oh yeah. It would force all the BS to be cut and all that. Again, we're talking fantasy. We could be sitting here talking dwarves and wizards, and
which is fun too.
Hey, and we did mention, if you missed our intro, we did talk about dwarves and wizards because we talked about what if Donald Trump had a beard, and then his beard would be so badass, like dwarves and wizard, he would probably claim that he had like Lord of the Rings, that he had birds living in his beard. His beard was so badass.
It'd actually make him a little more masculine. I mean, not saying he's not, but dude, it'd make him look pretty cool, right?
Shave the head, grow a beard. That would be the best thing he could do.
Yeah.
Hey, Blake, give your idea so David can hear it. Just give it one more time. Because it wasn't
what I was saying earlier in the podcast.
Show off the scar and the whole 9 yards.
I was going to say, right after the assassination attempt, he should have let the scar be as bad as possible, shave his head, go dark for a couple of weeks, grow a beard, let it go gray, come out looking like a Civil War general. That shit would have been awesome.
Heck yeah.
Now, one of the points I do want to talk about the tariffs before we move on to the next thing, and this was in one of the conversations I had today, and it was one of the individuals I talked to and work with on a regular basis, and he brought up a really interesting point. He goes, if everybody stopped paying taxes, there was no more federal income tax, because Trump couldn't do that. That has to be an act of Congress.
Yep.
However, what Trump could do is pardon everybody for not paying taxes 1 year. So theoretically, how we could get this jump started is Trump could come out after he becomes president and go, all right, everybody, no more taxes. Don't pay them. Don't send the money in. We're going to hold that stuff back. And then he pardons everybody. And that's how he get this thing going. So...
that's actually great guerrilla tactics. That's a great thought right there. I never thought about that. And then, and then every politician on either side of the aisle who votes against this or doesn't want to make this our national policy. Again, just remember, everybody, what was income tax? That was before World War I. That was like, or maybe was it just, so it's the early 1900s. I can't remember if it's 1909 or 1919. When income tax started. If anyone in the live stream knows the chat, give us a heads up. But yeah, but income tax, that's not been the way of it since the beginning. It was tariffs all the way up until, again, you go back into the Wilson, Woodrow Wilson, that era. John, the accessorizer Dunphy is saying it was FDR. Somebody maybe double check that, because that seems a little bit late.
Too late.
Yeah, it's a little bit
ago.
Well, but that would have been right around. That would have been right around Jekyll Island, though. Then, with the founding of the Fed, I don't think it coincided with the founding of the Fed, but I'm not sure.
No, it was before the Fed. The Fed, that is FDR. That's Truman. That's that time period. No, but income tax was, again, I just keep thinking the Wilson era. I think that was like, for some reason, 1909 or 1919 is what's in my stupid old man brain right now. But hey, if anyone figures that out, we'll come back to it. I don't want to belabor that whole point. This isn't a Alex Trebek trivia show. But but on that note, I mean, John just came back and said 1913. All right, thanks, Accessorizer. Thanks for doing thanks for being our online live stream researcher. Appreciate that. 1913. Somebody else just said 1861. That's something different. That wasn't income tax. Paul, please let us know if you're saying that's when income taxes started, because I think at the national level, again, and I don't want to go too deep in this, but our point just being is income taxes was not the way of the land. That's still relatively new in the history of our country. So back to your guys' points. Well, what did we do before income tax? It was tariffs. That's how we had a small government, and we were still a small government, by the people, for the people, we the people type of shit, and yeah, and it was roads, the military, and your government was only focused on a handful of things. It was still the states. Gosh, now I wish we would have had Redbeard on here tonight.
I just realized you guys actually have a state income tax up there.
Yes, we do. And so actually, whoever said 62 was right. 1862, and actually from one of my least favorite presidents, the asshole Abraham Lincoln. So
what are you talking about? Income tax?
Yep, that was the first implemented income tax in the United States, was 1862 by none other than Lincoln.
Well, okay, you're going to maybe have to do some research. It may have been implemented, but it wasn't the policy, or it wasn't the nationwide thing. I really do think that it's still right. That was like early 1900s. But I just got to say a couple quick shout outs. So Paul is saying 1861. We got John saying that he charges us a 6-pack per fact check. John, challenge accepted, sir. We got that. And then John, just now going back to you guys, one of the comments is like, yeah, it's a great idea, but it's not going to fly. I think everybody's kind of saying the same thing, but we haven't said the quiet part out loud. I think it's not going to fly because there's too many politicians and too many government entities that are just not going to walk away. They're not going to, if Elon Musk comes in there and starts cutting departments, and agencies and bureaus in half, or getting rid of a bunch of them and making them coalesce into a more structured, uniform, and efficient organization, man, the fucking swamp creatures are gonna shit themselves and rebel like there's no tomorrow. DB, I know you're trying to grow a beard, and I saw you try to grab some hairs like you're thinking like we can do better.
I keep it short. No, it's just one of those things. Like, the idea on paper sounds great, and I think it's something that in practice we're going to have to evolve to, start reducing our current income tax brackets, that burden, start pushing it off somewhere else, start using that revenue from other, from the tariffs or whatever sources he comes up with, and then maybe ease gradually into it. I'd love to believe that would be the way. That's the only way I think it would work, though, without completely shocking the system, right? You need to still gradually go into, I guess. I don't know.
Well, so
hang on.
Yep.
Do you rip the Band-Aid off, or do you pull it off slowly? I mean, it's kind of one of, that's that kind of question right there too.
Well, and that's what I was just going to say, is we're now in that realm where the system already is shocked. So what the hell's a little more shock? Like, I mean, that, and I don't think it's going to happen, but we are in that time where dramatic changes need to take place.
I agree with, especially with debt and all that.
Oh, shit, yeah. Oh.
So just on that note, I want to bring it back over to you, DB, and you and Blake. Blake's heard me say this ad nauseum. DB's heard me say it too. I mean, most of you guys have heard me say it. Look, if Donald J. Trump wins, we're not out of this fight. We're just we're in a different fight. If Kamala Harris and corporate America, the World Economic Forum, whatever you want to call it, the swamp, the League of Shadows, if they win, well, okay, you just voted your way into communism. There's only one way out of it, and it's going to be problematic. Even if Trump wins, those guys, everybody in his cabinet, and he And he did, I'll give him props. I'm not a big fan of his either, but he at least kind of admitted that he fucked up and had totally the wrong people in his cabinet. But whoever's in his cabinet, they've got to come on, and it's got to be a combat deployment for them. Just like, Blake and I were just kind of talking about this before we went live. Hey, I did 8 years in the agency, and almost 6 of those were all downrange. If, the men and women in uniform and the idiots like me and David can pull that shit off, there's no reason our elected officials, and look, they're still going to get weekends off, and people aren't, well, knock on wood, no one's trying to shoot them, because that's already happened. Yeah, it's not even a good joke. But that's what they're going to have to do. To David's point, this is also, like all the bullshit the left says about preserving democracy, where they don't know the first thing about our Constitution. They've never cared about any of this stuff before. We can see through those lies. But to David's point, the elephant in the room no one's talking about is our national debt, the inflation, the rampant, the out of control government spending. Look, we just gave another, $400 and some million to Ukraine. The EU just shit's out of fucking control. FEMA is building camps where Hurricane Helene went through. And David, you back me up on this now. David's got some experience doing this too. Not from quite the same perspective, but he's got experience. It's expensive to build an operating base for you and your organization, and even if you're a small organization or there's going to be a small number of personnel, that shit is not cheap. I saw that picture of that main base. They're putting down plywood on top of dirt. That base is $25 to $30 million, hands down. And that's not for the displaced people of North Carolina, Tennessee. No, that's just for the FEMA employees to come down there at some point in the future and maybe eventually do something. We're out of control, and that shit is going to have to get under control ASAP. They've got to come into this with a war footing. That's my comment. I'll turn it over to you guys.
I mean, to specifically address what it takes to ramp up from nothing, it's all about the money, right? You're building infrastructure, you're deploying people down, you're building entire processes and procedures. Like when you hit that ground, all you could do is just blow through cash. And I'm not saying FEMA's right or wrong. I'm just saying this is just what happens, whether it's the CIA, State Department, the military. The second you have feet on that ground, you're going to have to spend money to build around them. And that's before you even get to the mission. That's before you even start helping people. That's just to get in a position to help people. And
well, now, Blake, before I bring it back over to you, I'm going to disagree with my great friend and colleague David here a little bit. David, I don't know how much of this I can still say, but remember one of the last places where we did ops, and remember me and my team versus your team at the beginning.
yeah.
So you see the difference there. We were doing operations on, with just me with a pile of cash and a fucking rucksack. Nowhere near the money you guys were operating under and what you guys were trying to accomplish. So, and I've done that plenty of times in other theaters of operations. So you can still be effective, boots on the ground, and you can still push. I mean, but to David's point, it's money. You need a resource. If you can't come in there with the actual generators and this, that, and the others, well, then you've got to be able to work through guys like David, your local contacts, and figure out how to source that stuff locally and get it into the hands of the people who need it or the fighters or whatever it is your mission is that you're trying to accomplish.
And when we send a team like you, that's more tactical. We can be nimble. We can be quick. We can be not on the cheap, but still cheaper than when me and the boys showed up. It was an event. We're about to, I don't want to say start a war, but
well,
when we land, like shit changes, right? So I think of when I came in, that's more like that's more what FEMA has to do. They got to land, they got to build. Where you're tactical, you're the front team or forward team, you're the one who's out there. But what are your abilities? They're limited to some point until you expand up. And even in the business world that I now live in, the more money we got to spend money to make money. We got to spend money to have resources and develop and have infrastructure. And then, I mean, it's just ramping up.
Blake, your thoughts on what we're kind of, and I gotta, again, I agree and I slightly disagree, but it's a nuanced thing, but let's hear what you got to say first.
Well, I mean, honestly, as far as the whole FEMA camps and stuff like that, I actually, this is news to me. Sorry, my chickens just went wild around me and all went flying by, a little bit distracting. But anyway, I actually hadn't heard about the camps you're talking about. So it sounds like, for one, we have infrastructure being built for the FEMA employees, but then on another hand, are we actually having infrastructure built for displaced individuals in the location, or no?
Nope.
Probably not.
So then there's kind of one of the only things I need to really hear. It's another one of the dick grabbing, blowing of money, screw everybody else. We want to go down there and look like we're doing something good, have the ribbon cutting ceremony, have the shovel picture, have all the good stuff, and just say we're doing a good job and walk out. Like these people have painted themselves time and time again as utterly and morally incompetent. This is our government at large. So.
I'm going to bring up just one personal example, bring it back over to you guys. David will get some of this, but Blake, anybody watching will get it too. So, here I am in a different theater of operation. I'm out in the hinterlands, eating fucking, MREs and shit like this. I go back to the main building in that country, and there's a dining facility there. And I heard and there's a swimming pool. It's parties. There's a bar. And I heard people bitching and moaning because they didn't have lobster, and it was Thursday, and Thursday's lobster night, and they ran out of lobster or some shit like that. Like eating better than you would ever eat in America. And I'm out there, all encrusted in dirt and, people trying to blow me up every fucking day. So David, to your point, I think that's just that weird, because you're right. You still have to build up the infrastructure, but you got to support the guys out there who are doing the heavy lifting. And, again, they're either putting fucking rounds on target or they're putting generators in people's households. And I think that's what we're missing here. That's my only kind of disagreement, is like, you're right, but I don't think we are being led by people who understand the nuances there and then know how to make that transition. Because to your point, and anybody watching, David made that transition perfectly for one of the things that David and I were involved in. I'm not 100% sure I can really talk about it in great detail, but David made that transition. So here's me and my guys doing some other stuff, and then eventually everything coalesced. So it can be done, David. I don't know if you want to. I don't think I'm really arguing. I think, just to Blake's point, it highlights how we've got a group of people in charge who don't have the slightest fucking clue about how to be effective, and and where do you need to be effective and when. Like, if somebody right now from FEMA would come back and say, hey, Mark, but here's what you guys are missing. We're building 3 of those bases. Yeah, you're right. They're $25 million each. There's $75 million going there. But we've already flooded the area with, $750 million. We've already got our advanced teams out there, and they're pushing forward from these operating bases. Like, if you want to take a military or agency perspective, that David and I are familiar with. But I'm not hearing that. I don't think that's the case, boys and girls. I think it's just like, yeah, here's your $750. If you've got the internet to apply for it, oh, by the way, you'll have to pay that back in 2025 taxes. And then somewhere in the next 3 months, 6 months, we'll have these bases built, and then we can start doing shit for you.
Can I get just a little clarification real quick on these whole points? So Thursday night is lobster night. Is that correct?
David, I'm just going to, David knows David, give your opinions, even though you weren't in that same spot I was when I said, dude, one of the worst times, Blake, I literally flew back on, I'm working with a military unit, a very, kind of tier 1 elite unit. I'm fly back on one of their choppers at night. I had a big asset meeting I had to conduct in that area the next day. And people were mad at me because they had to come into the office to give me the money I needed on a Saturday morning at 6 a.m. And what I heard people bitching about was they only had 2 flavors of ice cream the night before in the dining facility.
Well, and that was all I was going to say to that, is how about them federal income taxes? But
see, this is where I was the worst dude ever, because we did not eat like that ever. I had that dude procuring stuff on the market, and it was like raw chicken that's been sitting out on a warm counter for 12 hours. We're all getting sick, and I have to go into freaking the middle of the city to figure out, like, dude, why are we all getting sick? Where are you getting your meat? He's all, it's the cheapest. And I'm all, well, there you go, buddy. We're not eating lobster. We're eating the cheapest of the chicken. But you know what? You know who's at the first FEMA camps? And I'm going to tell you, it's a dude who's getting a promotion. He needs to check this off his box. Remember, like, the supervisor they sent to babysit me?
Oh,
that dude was there purely to go from GS15 to SIS. Like, he had to check a box, and I was like his, I don't know, his whipping boy or whatever it was, you know. And the chief that was there, one of the first chiefs, obviously not saying names, but he was there to get a promotion too. These guys weren't serious people. They weren't there for the mission. We never heard of them. How could you go into the country to do what we were about to do? And we did not know who you were. You didn't work on the desk. You had nothing to do with the country. And that's the bureaucracy, right? Checking boxes, getting promotions.
So just to David's point, if people don't quite get it, I got to give just a little background. So when he says work in the desk, so obviously you have support personnel back in America who are in, you know, the main office, you know, they're in Langley, but that's the desk, right? Those people are working the desk because everything you do, right? You know, there's paperwork involved and there's requests and there's approvals and all the shit that has to take place. So to David's point, it's not even somebody who is back working your region or your subject or you know, or whatever the fight you were in. It's not even somebody from headquarters who at least at a minimum has been reading all of your traffic, right? Your reports and knows what's going on or has a sense of it. No, to David's point, it's some rando from some other fucking division. That guy could have been working Eastern Europe for all we know. And then now he's in the middle of a fucking fight and he has no fucking clue. And to David's point, somebody just said, yeah, you're the guy and you're ready to go from a GS15 to, if I want to make a military equivalent, that's definitely a full bird colonel. It might be a 1-star general. It's not quite, you know, a tit for tat, but that's definitely the equivalent of a full bird colonel. And an SIS, senior intelligence service, that's definitely at least a 1-star, you know. And then you've got your ranks in the SIS, just like you got your stars in the Army or any of the branches, you know, for your general officers. But yeah, but to David's point, you know, like people running a base in a war zone who've never been there and have no fucking concept of what's going on, or who are there to handle your infrastructure, logistics support, which includes your security.
Or not, if you don't.
Yeah, well, I was wondering if you'd pick up what I was putting down for you.
Well, dude, I just remember, I mean, we're getting way off topic. I haven't been.
Yeah, I just got to, just on a fun note, I just got to throw this in there. I mean, we don't normally read the comments, but this is a good one. The accessorizer Marines would be like, what the fuck is ice cream? Yeah, that's exactly kind of what we're getting at there right there. So keep going, DB. Sorry.
I was just going to say all these, they're bureaucrats. They're not field dudes. And I haven't been chewed out that frequently as often as I did there since I was like a teenager. It was like everything I did, somebody had to bust my ass for it. And I'm like, I can't win with you guys. You're checking boxes. I'm here doing the job. I'm here pushing the mission forward, helping. Like, we're doing everything we can, putting our lives on the line, mind you. And every little step I took was like, yeah, you can't do that. That's against the rules and regulations. I'm like, you guys suck.
And that is the totalitarian's wet dream for the civilian populace. And it's what's being implemented and the systems are being set up for it. That level of micromanagement from unelected bureaucrats in your bedroom, in your kitchen, in your garage, in your shop, at dinner with your family, that level of control on every single aspect. Oh, you can't have a medium rare steak. That checks a box of a bad citizen. Oh, you can't have that second beer, bad citizen box. Like, that's the desire.
And I just got to add before DB, Blake, to your point, if you want to add to this, CBDB, Central Bank Digital Currency, CBDC, sorry. That is exactly what that's designed to do. So I don't know if you want to add that.
Well, I mean, yeah, we can take it in that direction if you guys want to. I mean, we've seen this
Oh, no, I'm
program.
just throwing it out there. It is one of the ultimate tools of control.
100%.
Yeah.
Look at China. Look at the social credit score system and their central banking systems that they have implemented in that nation. And then listen to the Western leaders talk about how it's their desire to be able to elicit that kind of control over their populace. I mean, the writing is on the wall. I mean, and it's quite frankly, it's why they like Kamala so much, is because she's tabulous rasa, blank slate. Whatever you put in her programming, she's going to spew out in front of everybody and just go, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Oh, would you like another blowjob? Oh, that was probably a bit much.
There was a pregnant pause there on the BJ comment, and I did use pregnant pause intentionally, but BB, let's bring it over to you on that one, you know.
On which part?
Wherever you want to go, man. Let's just move away from that blowjob comment that he made.
Hey, she got her start as a young prostituter.
Hey, God dang it. What's his face from San Francisco even came out and said that. So if anyone thinks that Blake is being, you know, misogynist, you know, whatever ism you want to call him. No, old boy himself did an interview and he called all that shit out. I mean, it's their words, not Blake's.
And honestly, there's a reason that the text message ringtone on my phone is Tim Walz going, started as a young prostituter. So
slips abound. All right, DB.
I don't know. The only other thing I was going to say on the camps is those bureaucrats, to go back to how I felt every time I was out there. They have a bunch of bottles of water, the FEMA guys, that they're allowed to give out. But because of their regulations, it's 3 per person, whatever, right? This is the example. And they die on that hill every time rather than look at their target or the person they're helping and being like, man, this guy's freaking dehydrated to hell. We need to get him like 4 bottles or 5 bottles and
an IV.
Yeah, and there's like, oh, the regulations say 3. Sorry, buddy. Everybody gets 3, and they die on these hills, and that's what I was never. And these are the headquarters people. I never had these issues serving overseas anywhere else except for that one time, that one experience when all the headquarters folks rolled in, checking boxes, and it did not work. Like when I went with you back east, you know, on the road trip, the Capitalist Caliphate. Oh, that was me basically saying, fuck off to everybody. I'm disappearing for the day, and none of you guys could do anything about it because I was just sick of how they were running things, because all they were doing is hamstringing everybody. Yeah. They were saying, you can't. I had the keys to the armory, remember? And I don't remember if you even remember me getting chewed out for letting, I don't think it was your team, but one of the other teams, go through the stuff to catalog, like, all right, what do we have? What, you know, like for certain situations, whatever it was, and it seemed reasonable. I'm like, all right, yeah, let's go in the armory and check out what we have. And if there's something we need, you know, I'll send a cable back to Washington and get it shipped out. And that was like the end of the world. I almost got sent home for allowing that to happen. And I'm like,
standard operation.
So, hey, I just gotta interject a little bit of like, you know, the story that DB's talking about, because there's a little bit more to it that's going to really scare some people and highlight how fucked up this is. But then it also goes into one of the comments that came in is like, you know, when the people who are writing the SOPs who are making the decisions, if they're not part of that boots on that ground, the advanced team, if they don't have that background and experience, and I'm here to tell you, even if I would have been rotated back and on the desk, no matter. Like, yeah, but I'm not there. I used to say to everybody, well, what do you think about this or that or that? I'm like, yeah, I'm not there anymore. Like, I've been gone for like, even if it's only 6 months, these environments change so dramatically. I'm not there. That dynamic is not what it was 6 months ago when I was there. So to DB's point, and DB, it wasn't my team because my team came in with our own weapons. So that weapon issue didn't really affect us. But now to weapons, I had somebody reach out and say, okay, what do you guys need? I made my submission. Well, okay, we're not here to get into a fight. We're not here to pick a fight. We're really here. You know, we've got a different mission, but if a fight comes our way, we've got to be able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you know, like all this litany of things. And I remember people scoffing at some of my suggestions. And then I remember somebody totally taking my things. And then they did all this wazoo over the top, America shit that made it so obvious you were an American, as opposed to DB's, I just looked down. I was looking at the camera. I see you smiling. My logistics is now fucked up. Now I've got 3 different like ammo sets, whereas before I could have been just running on, or actually 3 to 5 different ammos. Whereas before I only needed 9 mil and 7.62 by 39. All of this shit I could have blended in better. I'm really just trying to break contact. Some weapons platforms that are available to us shoot, both in, the subsonic and if you want to go into like an AR type of platform, a submachine gun platform, but it's the same round for your handgun. There's all kinds of different things. And so much of that, David, got poo-pooed, as you well know. So I if you're willing to talk about that, I think that's a sad thing that people need to hear about, just simply how egos and bureaucrats got in the way. And because that ties into the comment that came in, is how many people die because of idiots are writing SOPs? And the answer to this is, unfortunately, 11. So,
and this is the example you're queuing me up for. It's my all-time favorite story about how Washington thinks, how they think when they've not in the field. Like they've read all the books, but they've never lived what's in the books, right? So I remember obviously we're operating in a foreign country, and what's the weapon of choice in virtually every foreign country? The classic AK-47. And we're like, to your point, we got to blend in. We got to have something where we could procure extra whatever we need on the market, the most widely available gun and ammunition. And so we get the shipment in. Oh my God, I'm just laughing thinking about it. We get the shipment in, we open them up, and they're not the classic Kalashnikov that we all have seen in the movies and in the field and that we've seen in training. We have them in training. These are the most beautiful, shiny, all black metal. They did not look like AK-47s. Other than
they had rail systems for fucking Tech 15s and all kinds of American shit. Like, what are you fuckers doing?
It's so America. It's so America. We take something everybody else has done and we make it better. And that was literally what we did not need at that moment. And I'm dying laughing. Like, this is the greatest example of Washington bureaucrats sitting on a desk. They've read the book. They know what we need. And they have zero experience. They've never lived the life. And they were useless. What could, other than, yeah, it shoots the ammo, but you walk around with that and they're going to be like, wow, these are some rich dudes. Must be Americans.
I would say your one hope you could have is maybe they think you're Russian. Maybe.
Oh no, these things screamed freaking Americana. All they needed was an American flag on the side of them to make it even cooler.
So Blake, to your point, that was the whole thing. Like my team and we were blending in, and that was our whole MO, right? Yeah, okay, we might have to break contact, and we'll save this for another episode because David and I actually really want to start talking about this.
Yeah, I think we should have this episode because it'll be fun.
Well, I think that's going to be the episode after the election, because then will be Veterans Day, the election over. But and maybe and I don't know, David and I have talked about maybe we do this on Centerline. I'm not 100% sure, but anyway, the point just here being is, so, here's an MP5. It's collapsible. I can throw it in a rucksack. It doesn't have the range, but I'm not trying to, but look, if somebody's shooting at me from 100, 200, 300 meters away, I can still put rounds around that target enough for their head to go down, and then pop a smoke grenade and run around the corner and get the fuck out of there, or shoot out an engine block. And then I can, exfil. That's all our mission was. And there are, AKs that, you can do that as well. AKMSs, collapsible stocks, AKS, they're 74s versus 47. There's options out there, and you can logistically, you can support all that in the economy, or you only have one logistical flight come in with just 9mm. David, you want to, I'm trying to set you up for the bullshit that ended up happening instead. So,
were you part of this, or is this something I've told you? I can't remember when we're flying in for the first time. Is that what you're referring to? When my team was flying in?
No, because I was already in.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I might have told you. The only thing I could think of was when we were flying in, we were told we couldn't take ammunition into the country.
Yeah. Yeah. Who, according to who, motherfuckers? Like, according to who? Some headquarters bureaucrat? I mean, are you kidding me?
9mm is not good. 40 Mike's fine. No.
But you couldn't do anything. And then to David's point, and look, I came in saying, well, I can only come in with so much. I'm not going to say how many people were with me, but it's like, oh, well, then but I'm going to buy the stuff on the economy. I'm going to resupply myself from the people I'm going to convince to start working with me. And, but to David's point, it's like, no, you guys can't do any of that shit. Like, well, then why are we even going there? Like, and that reminds me of the scene from Aliens, the second Aliens. What are we supposed to use? Bad language? I mean, what the fuck, people?
That's pretty much how that conversation went, because we're already flying in. Everybody's like preparing because we don't know what we're landing into, right? This is all unknown. It's dark. We've already had to get permissions to do what we were doing. And then someone contacts the pilot, gives us our orders, like, no ammunition. We can't leave the plane. Like, we're like, wait, we're getting off the plane, going to secure our area to make sure, if someone's shooting at us, we have to defend ourselves. But with no ammunition, all they thought we were going to go do is kill people. That's what Washington somehow thought. I'm like, what? It's Washington, man. I don't know. It was such a great story that we're going to disobey this one.
Well, and hey, before I bring this over to Blake, and then, we're at an hour, wrap this up. I think, Blake, with your permission, I think we should do the next two episodes. So that's the Monday before election and the Monday after election. And we should just let it go and just be whatever it turns out to be, and if we pull off a Joe Rogan 3-hour podcast, then so be it. But for the sake of tonight's episode, I just want to bring it back to DB. And for anyone who ever sees this video, I mean, please, raise your glass tonight or this weekend, or your hats off to DB and so many of the other men and women we're kind of talking about, but not talking about, because DB did get a ton of shit from idiots. And thank God DB is who he is, because he still supported me and my team, and he found a way to disobey orders and make shit happen. DB was the kind of guy you could go and say, hey, I need this right fucking now. And it's the mission, right? And he was either there with you doing it or fucking delivering it to you. Oh, are you guys taking rounds? Yeah, here's your new, like you, Blake, you said, oh, you guys needed 40mm? Well, here you go. Let me just drop a couple off on those guys over there behind that calotte, just to help out. That's DB, and that's what we need. And DB got in trouble for actually trying to support the fucking mission. Like, what the fuck, over?
Oh, well, I appreciate it. That's just my personality. You saw how it worked in other environments too. And God bless the people who supported me, though, because while my chain of command liked to come down hard on me, I had people in my side of the ring that were way more powerful who would just shut things down. And that was how I really did my job, is those relationships I had with, over the years with people outside of my office. They were able to get my back. They were able to, get people to quit chewing me out all the time and do my job. So when I would go off and do they sent that GS-15 to babysit me for a reason. They knew I was going to put the mission first, and they wanted to control what I was doing rather than me working with, I don't know how to explain it, but
and I'm just gonna maybe just spoil or give everybody a heads up to when we do this again, and maybe I'll just get a little drunken. But like, either that guy you're talking about, it was either him or it was that chief. one of those guys shut down my whole thing for a J-Lens, and that would have made a huge difference for September 11th. That later on, I mean so there's 4 lives right there. And I know you can't do a straw man. I don't want to get involved in that, like, coulda, woulda, shouldas, but like fucking there was things that we had available to us. We all knew we should have had. See, David, I got to shut up because one of those is, yeah.
Like I always say, that attack was never a matter of if, it was just a matter of when. You look at, we were sitting ducks the whole time. Yeah. Lucky it wasn't us. I mean, my parking spot got blown up. I don't remember if you remember that bombing at the this actually should tell you something. There was a bombing at the original consulate building, or not consulate, but where the State Department was housed before they moved to the place that got attacked.
Yep.
I always had to go meet Ambassador Stevens there and some of the statey folks, and I always parked next to these like red crescent vehicles. I'm thinking, if there's going to be some bad stuff happening, it probably is not going to be next to these guys. And sure enough, when I wasn't there, that was the parking spot that got blown up, and I'm like, damn, these guys are assholes. but we knew then, when the building, they couldn't get any closer, of course, but we were under attack then, and no one checked the box. It was always a matter of when are they going to be successful, not like if. The if was never a question. We knew it was going to happen. It was happening the whole time.
Let's bring this back over to Blake for kind of closing comments. We're at just an hour, but David, and just to give everybody a heads up, I mean, if you guys and gals aren't idiots, you're probably picking up what David and I are talking about in that event, and actually the time before the event that you might be thinking of. But David, I think, I'm like at 95%. It's time. I'm just going to start talking about it. So whether that's here on Millstone on the 12th or on Centerline, wherever we do that, but I definitely want you to be on, and who I'm talking about. I reached out to him the other day, and he unresponsive, maybe doesn't want to just put his face out here and talk about it. I mean, I don't know, but I'd love to get superheroes talk. You know who I'm talking about when I do the superheroes from their diaphragm. Oh, the signs say all you can eat, not you eat all. You know who I'm talking about. One of my guys. I'd love to get him on, but I think he's still associated in some form or fashion. I don't know if he'd be willing to come on, but yeah, okay. I'm going to shut up right there. Boys and girls, anyway, just stay tuned. Whether here on Millstone, as one of our last episodes before Blake and I decide to start turning this into, we got to start training some people on some stuff, or over on Centerline Systems. But one day, very soon, David and I are going to sit and talk about this in depth and have a couple beers. And yeah, I think that would be a pretty interesting night, to tell the truth. I mean, a story that's never really been told unless you had a child strapped into a chair while you were arm wrestling, getting drunk in DC. I mean, the last time that story was told out loud.
That's the kid I'm waiting for to get out of the gym right now. He is now not an 18-month-old little kid. He is a 15-year-old dude who is the hardest hitting freaking football and baseball stud around. And yes, we strapped him with my belt to a bar stool right before we got kicked out of that bar.
Yeah. And then we did get kicked out of the bar. It may not have had anything to do with how much alcohol we were drinking or how much arm wrestling we were all doing on the table. It may have just been the fact that your child was strapped down to a chair with a belt. It could have been that too. I don't know. Blake, come on, man.
Yeah.
David and I are telling you stories right now. Bring us back on focus and let's take it out on a good.
I'll tell you what, I
probably not a good note, but I mean, on something.
Well, I actually don't think it was that far off the mark, because this is what I have to say. To the rule breakers, to the trailblazers, these are the people that we need. People that are going to be honest, that are going to stand up for what is right, not to the bureaucrats that sit above them and, dictate what is said and what is done on their little triplicate forms. We need people that are like you, like those that are willing to say, go screw yourself, to stand up against this problem, to stand up against these powers and go, no, we are going to reorder this society in a clean, orderly fashion, the way our founders intended, the way our children deserve. And I think it's going to fall to our generation, to this time right now, to make these changes, to be the generation that stands up and go, better us than anyone else. So for what comes in the future, what may be here in, well, now 7 days, what might be just right around the corner here in 180 days, it is irrelevant to the fact that it is on our shoulders to stand up and to fix this problem so that our children do not have to, and that our forebears can be proud of us when we go to meet them.
No matter how this turns out in 8 days, 7 days, however, depending on how you want to look at it, no matter how it turns out, you're absolutely right. It's on us. It's on our shoulders. And because it isn't going to be an easy fight, no matter which way. We have a huge struggle in front of us, no matter who wins. One is just, you know, a different type of movie. That's all, you know. David, DB.
What's up?
I don't know. What do you got? We're wrapping it up here.
I'm just thinking of all the great stuff. I mean,
yeah, I just keep coming back to, I'm not going to lie. I keep coming back to the capitalist caliphate trip. We got to tell that story in detail, and that's going to have to be a hoodie. Hey, I got the Centerline System hoodies. We're going to do a capitalist caliphate t-shirt or hoodie. It just has to happen.
And, you know,
and I'll probably do a Carbush Brothers pizza. It's
all these stories we have, though, we're not unique. We just, we got the cool, sexy CIA letters and all that, but the same story is the guys here, John and Paul and these guys commenting in the section. They have the same stories, man. They had the same stories about bureaucracy. They have the same stories about asshole people ahead of them, you know, above them or whoever. They have, nothing has changed. It's the one thing that actually, you know, binds us together is the inefficiency and the ineffectiveness of those around us when we're just trying to serve, trying to survive, doing a job that entails our lives being on the line, and nothing's changed, right? But this is what binds us all. I can't run into a military dude who's like, oh yeah, we had such a great experience. We always had everything that we needed. Oh, our bosses were amazing. Nobody power tripped over us. Washington was fantastic. Said absolutely no one. And that's what people who served know. And people
David knows this. I a long time ago, I kind of seriously thought about writing a book. I don't know if I'm getting older, maybe I'm kind of thinking about it, but like the title was going to be Failures of Leadership. But then to David's point, the only reason I'm mentioning it is the subtitle was going to be insert the name of your organization here, because it's the same fucking story, to David's point, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm about to log out. Here's that dude we strapped to the bar stool 13 and a half years ago at a bar with my belt.
Hey, I just got to ask real quickly. Maybe that's why he hit so hard in football, because he was traumatized and he's just taking that shit out on other people on the field right now.
Well, like John said, it was character building. He was trained by the best, a bunch of CIA dudes in a bar, and I'm embarrassing.
So hey, can you hang on? Can you see me?
Yeah.
Do you even remember me?
No, he was 18 months, dude.
I know. Well, I'm just asking though. I'm like, do you even remember me at all or any of that? No. You were kind of a badass even as a little kid. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
He was pretty rad.
Yeah, pretty much.
Took him on operations and got chewed out by my wife. I was getting it from my wife, from Washington, from everybody.
All right, hey, be good. I'll talk
Have a good night, boys.
All right, Blake, take DB. Thanks, man. I know you got to bounce. I'll talk to you a little bit later.
All right, later, guys.
Yeah, DB.
Blake, take us on out. Let's just wrap this one up here tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what then. I'll leave it on a personal note, because I've already kind of said what my last comments were earlier on. You know, I've had a kid here recently, actually just turned 6 months 2 days ago. And Mark, you don't know this yet either, but this morning he officially started able to get from his chest to his back now. So we're right at rolling, and it's exciting to see this new world and these new things. And, you know, it's like I had my final comments that I said earlier, and it's been so much more in my mind since having him is how imperative it is that we solve these problems in our generation now, so that my child and your children don't have to see what it is we're going through. Maybe there's a chance that things will be better, but it is going to be hard. It is going to take sacrifice. It is going to take pulling together and doing things that we're not comfortable with. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be worth it. And Godspeed to all of you. Have a blessed night, and we'll see you next Monday.
Right on. And so we'll see you next Monday, the night before the election. That's going to be the end of the Hands Inside the Ride. That'll be part 5. And then we'll do one more episode the week after. And we'll just, I have no idea what it's going to be titled. We'll just see where that
depends on what happens, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We'll deal with that as it presents itself. And then after that, though, just to reiterate, then because of everything Blake's got in his life, what I've got in my life, then we're going to go to a 30-day once, somewhere. We don't know what the schedule is, but when we do it, we will be teaching and we'll be passing on information and teaching classes. So everybody just stay tuned. We really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Thanks to everybody who was here in the live stream, especially everybody, leaving comments in the chat here. Just John, John just said you didn't have a beard then. That's actually true. Actually, though, there was one time in my life I had mutton chops. Maybe I'll share a picture of that.
Oh, I remember the muttons.
Yeah, mutton chops. Yeah, well, I was in a part of the world where it just seemed appropriate, but from an 1800s kind of perspective. But anyway, thanks for everybody for commenting. Whether you watch this live or you watch this on demand, we're having fun here these last couple episodes, because what the fuck else can we really do right now? I mean, you're either ready or you're not ready. Yeah, seriously. And as Blake said earlier, if it happens, let's just be in the bar, breaking bread, having drinks, and smoking a cigar with our friends. And that's really the zone we're in right now. So, yeah, we'll see in a week or two if we're all going to be meeting at the Green Dragon, or if we're going to be, we'll just take it from there, right, Blake?
Amen, brother. Well, Godspeed, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
All right, everybody. Hey, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Leave comments, share the video. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next Monday. All right, everybody, be good.